yeah, that's the problem with energy medicine. It's not established. And we know, especially the people who already work with energy medicine over many, many years, that energy medicine is a quite ancient modality, which was already practiced and performed thousands and thousands of years ago. Talking about the ancient healers who were able to emit certain frequencies out of their palms of their hands, over the magnetic stones, which were actually the basis for what we do right now, healing with electromagnetic fields. That all happens thousands of years ago. These stones, they were found in Greece. They are called magnes litos. It's magnetic stones, you know. And the ancient healers figured out when they move it over a human body that there is a positive reaction when it comes to health benefits. You know, wounds heal faster. This was how they used it. You could create pain relief with magnetism. So that's really nothing new. And it's really nothing special. You know, people out of the energy medicine, they know that electromagnetic fields or magnetic fields, they work for pain relief quite nicely, without believing in that. It's not necessary. You know, it's just it works. We will figure out later on why it works, because we dig a little bit deeper, you know. But those are things, they're not new to us. But to me, I'm always surprised, because to me it looks like that wherever I go, you share all that stuff. I said, oh, I never heard about this. I thought pain relief is only possible with this all these pills you can buy, you know, ibuprofen, aspirin, all that stuff. No, there is also another way to treat pain and to conquer pain and even to get rid of pain by using modalities out of energy medicine, which one of these modalities is pulsed electromagnetic fields. And to close this and to start with the slides I know very well, and coming back to why it's so important to have personal interaction, I believe in the fact that if you speak to somebody and you are capable of change people's minds, or if you are capable of motivate them to do things which they thought they cannot do this, you convince them to twist their lifestyle 360, you know. This is also medicine, my opinion. And this is all done by energy. It's the energy which you send and hopefully will be well received by the people who listen to you, and then they turn it into some positive action, which we know in energy medicine is called resonance. If you resonate with something or somebody. In a relationship, it's called love. Love is nothing than resonance. It's your reaction on something or somebody. You know, the better it is, the better it turns out into something positive, the higher the love level. That's what we say. But in relationship, the highest achievement of resonance is what we call love, unconditional love. And unconditional love can be only achieved by receiving and sending energy. Because if I use my voice to speak to you, and my English is not too bad, so at least you are able to understand what I'm talking to you, then you can. Then my goal is that this should do something with you, right? So my approach is I wanna create a reaction, and energy medicine is nothing else. When you lie on a PEMF device, The device wants to create a reaction on your body. It's nothing else. You know, it's just maybe the language is introduced and applied in a different way, but the concept is exactly the same. And this is what we have to understand when we utilize energy medicine. And that probably, I want you to pull you away a little bit from all this study stuff and all these physics and all this chemistry and whatsoever, you know, just to use your clear mind. You know, and energy medicine is so simple to understand. If you get introduced to any kind of energy, and this energy is capable of resonating with you, and you know, turn this received information into a positive action inside your body, then this is what energy medicine does. And maybe there is a little bit more to that, because most of you use a smartphone. Who has no smartphone? Oh, there's always this one person, right? There's always this one outsider. Yes, exactly. Okay, we have two outsiders, so you are not alone. You know, Michael Jackson. You are not alone.
Oh, good. I'll talk to you later.
You should create a community. So you don't even know about this, but smartphones, they emit electromagnetic waves.
I know all that.
You know all of that. Do you also know why, when you suffer from pain, and you know that a smartphone uses electromagnetic waves, and you know that a system from us also uses electromagnetic waves, why should I buy this system from this guy from Switzerland when I have a smartphone at home which also emits electromagnetic fields, and I suffer from a tennis elbow? I could easily put that smartphone on that tennis elbow and I don't have to make this investment. Great idea. Congratulations. The problem is the smartphone, and it doesn't matter if it's an Apple, a Samsung, or you name them, you know, they are not designed to emit electromagnetic waves which create a positive effect. They do exactly the opposite. That's why those two people here, they said, not with me. I'm not using this because I have a reason for that. People who do not use smartphones nowadays, they don't do it because they don't need it. They do it because they know exactly why they won't do it. Am I right?
You are right.
Thank you. So, the thing is, energy medicine is so easy to explain and so hard to understand. Because there is so much detail into energy medicine, and at the end, a tiny difference in the content of the information you introduce to a person can make a difference whether this content of information creates a positive, a health benefiting effect, or whether it even creates a harmful effect. For example, using a smartphone over a long time, always exactly on your brain, and your brain tumor will start growing. It's not a question if, the question is when. And the question is how long it takes, how long you need to abuse your brain with a smartphone on your ear until that's gonna happen. But it's gonna happen. And it doesn't matter if it's a woman or a man, a child or an older person, it's gonna happen. It's about the amount of exposure. And proximity, exactly. So there are things we can, if you have questions, write them down. If you want to know a lot of things about this, use the afternoon and just bombard me with all these questions. I think I have a lot of answers on this for you. So, introducing PEMF. PEMF stands for pulsed electromagnetic fields. So we have four major words. Pulsed, that means the applied information is not boring, because pulsed sounds a little bit, a little bit more variable and not so boring. And then we have electric, we have electricity. So we have electricity involved in that whole process, which most people say, oh, that's not good because electricity is not good for your health. Yes, you are right, in general it's not. It depends how you utilize it. In terms of how strong the exposed electricity is, and same with good coffee, how you be able to filter it, or with good water. How you will be able to filter electricity to keep the good stuff and filter out the bad stuff. That's very important when it comes to create fast electromagnetic fields for health benefits. It's the way how you're going to utilize each of that property which is involved in PEMF. And then we have magnetism, pulsed electromagnetic. So people always ask me, how many magnets are in these applicators? Well, there is not one magnet inside, because we don't use magnets. There was a Japanese company, they were very successful in North America, maybe you remember them, Nikken. They were actually doing great business, but they didn't use PEMF technology, they used magnets. So they were offering applicators with built-in fixed magnets. Magnets have an advantage because they create a very high intensity, which then creates a certain effect on a human body. The big disadvantage of a magnet is it has no frequency, because it's just a piece of equipment which contains of certain metal, which has the capability of being magnetic, but it doesn't have a frequency. It just has intensity. And that's why when it's not really energy medicine, because you are missing one of the most fundamental properties to apply energy medicine, which is the frequency. The frequency is also known, and now listen and learn carefully, the content of the information. The content of the information is the frequency. The volume of the content of the information is the intensity. People always mix up intensity and frequency. If I speak louder now, I change the intensity of the content information, but I do not change the content of the information. Remember what I did just? I said 2 times the same language. When I'm getting more noisy now, 2 times exactly the same frequency, because the content information of the information is the same, but the volume is different. So what I just did right now, if you want to carry that over to energy medicine, we apply 2 times the same frequency with a different intensity. Wenn ich jetzt anfange Deutsch zu sprechen, wird es schwierig für euch. Ja, das ist leider so. That was German. So what I did now, I changed the frequency. I changed the frequency from English to German. So I applied a completely different information to you, and suddenly you are, you don't understand the information, the content of the information anymore. And I can speak as loud as I want in German. It doesn't make a difference to your reaction. Also very important, that reveals all the mysteries of energy medicine now, what I'm telling you. Because what I told you just now was, when the frequency is not right, and you can ramp up the intensity as much as you want, you will not create a resonance effect. Does it make sense to you? So, applying a smartphone for pain relief, even if you put it on full power whatsoever, it will not create a health benefiting effect, because the content of the information, the frequency, is not designed to create a health benefiting effect. And even if you ramp up the intensity, do whatever you want, it will not make a difference. It will not create a positive effect. Does it make sense? It's very important for me that you understand the difference between intensity, which is the volume of the content of an information, and the frequency, which is the content of the information. And by knowing this and understanding this, you will never mix up intensity and frequency anymore. And you shouldn't, because it's two major properties when we speak about energy medicine. And sometimes those properties decide whether an electromagnetic signal is health beneficial or even extremely harmful. Speaking about smartphones, for example. 5G. Huh? Did you ever hear the 5G signal? The problem is we have no organ to make it hearable. It's called the beacon signal. It sounds quite frightening. Bow, 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 bow. That's more or less how it sounds. We cannot hear it because we don't have the frequency range. But you can look on YouTube. Beacon signal 5G, and there are nice gadgets that can make it hearable. So if you use a 5G receiver in your house, and even if you don't hear it, it always makes bam, 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 bam all the time, 24/7. We know that, so we try to avoid it as much as we can. We also don't always turn it off every time, because sometimes we forget it. But you should only leave it on when you're using it. You know, during the night you can turn it off. And by the way, it saves you money, because you don't waste energy for nothing. But a little more after that. So, and then we have the word field. What is a field? What is a field?
Constellation.
You know, think about soccer. That's a field. It's just I would say, it's a surface with something on it or something in it. This is how I try to best describe it. A field is a surface which contains of something, right? A soccer field contains of grass, bugs, whatsoever, you know? And a field, in terms of how we interpret it when we speak about energy medicine, it's a surface or a force. We also use the word force, which contains of certain properties. And if the properties are, again, formed in a way that when it's introduced to your body, that your body reacts pleasant on that, then we speak about resonance again. And we speak about using fields to create a health beneficial effect, which is the basic idea of energy medicine. Or when it's, for example, used for diagnostics, like in an MRI, then you know, I know that people always think an MRI makes a picture of me, of something inside me. That's not true. Actually, what it does, when they put you inside an MRI, the MRI creates such a high electromagnetic exposure, about 100,000 times higher than the Earth magnetic field, just to get you an idea. 327 Tesla. And by the way, about 100,000 times higher than our systems do when it comes to intensity. So it's a pretty high intensity when you are exposed to an MRI. And the MRI is not capable of making a picture from inside of you. It just changes the direction of the cells of your tissue in certain ways. And behind that, when it's done, there is a software, and this software is capable of emulating a picture out of that. But an MRI does not make pictures. It just forces tissue to go in certain direction, always depending on what kind of tissue it is exposed to. And for example, a tumor has a different resonance capacity than a healthy tissue. And that's why an MRI is capable of discovering a malignant tissue inside your body, not because it makes a picture, it's just because this kind of tissue, forced by a high electromagnetic field exposure, it just creates a different resonance, which then, emulated by a software, can be interpreted in a different picture. But MRIs don't do pictures. Ultrasound don't do pictures. Ultrasound is just, you send an ultrasound vibration through your tissue, and depending on when it gets reflected and how quickly, it sends it back. And there's again a software behind, which then emulates a picture out of this. Is it closer? Is it further? And then by compelling all these data and having a very, very intelligent software, they create a picture out of that. But ultrasound and MRIs are not cameras. They more or less just, speaking of an MRI, forcing tissue with high electromagnetic fields to create a reflection in different ways, and then emulating a picture out of this, which is quite cool. I mean, you can. I'm sure since MRIs are on the market, a lot of lives could be saved already by detecting things earlier, malignant developments in the body of people. But in the same time, it's also not good to use it on a regular basis, because you are exposed to quite a high intensity, and that's not good over time for your health. So those are these four properties: pulse, electromagnetic fields. So in order to make a very pleasant, energetic information, it would be good if the information is not boring, if it contains of electricity, because, and we will learn that a little bit later on, when you run electricity through a conductor, you always create a magnetic field around it. Maybe you still remember in physics, Ampere's law. If you apply current through a conductor, could be a wire, then right at the moment when you do this, you always create a magnetic field around it. It's just how physics work. There is no electricity without magnetism. And on the other hand, Ampere's law 2, you can induce electricity with a magnetic field. This is, for example, what you do when you charge your mobile phone. Because your mobile phone contains of a battery. It's a so-called lithium-ion battery. And this lithium-ion battery contains of lithium and ions, as the name says. Those ions, they are little fellows. They can be attracted by a magnetic field. And when you kick their butts with a magnetic field, they start moving within the lithium. And by doing this movement, they create friction. And this friction creates an electric potential. And this electric potential, which is triggered by the magnetic field from your charger inside your lithium battery, which then kicks the butts of the ions, will be stored within the lithium, because the lithium is capable of storing this potential, which is created by the ions. And that's why you can keep that electricity inside that battery for a certain amount of time and introducing it to your smartphone to be the energy source. And when you utilize the energy by using the smartphone for whatever you want to do it, the electric potential within that lithium becomes lower, and at a certain point it's empty and you need to recharge it again. So you need to apply again a magnetic field to kick the butts of the ions. They start moving again, they create friction, they create an electric potential, and the lithium makes sure that this electric potential, which is gained now, it stays within your battery. This is how it works. And interestingly, when it comes to how human beings work energetically, not speaking chemically, energetically, it's exactly the same concept. In order for human beings to use their energetic potential, they need to be charged, obviously, because you have to have some kind of storage for energy, which you are capable of utilizing during your day. That also explains why people get tired in the evening, because at a certain point their lithium battery is running out of juice, and then you need to do certain things again to recharge your battery. Good food, good rest, sleep, you know, because our body needs time to recharge, like a lithium battery does. And for that, it needs some routines. It needs some prerequisites in order to be capable of doing that. You know, and this is rest. This is introduction of high quality fuel. So this is the all what we introduce to our body in a liquid or a solid state. All what we drink and what we eat. And also exercise, movement, all that kind of stuff, you know. This is the energetic approach of keeping ourselves maintained well, and also providing energy in order to fulfill our tasks during the day, whatever we have to fulfill. And sometimes we feel that at the end of the energy there is still task left. Happens sometimes, right? And sometimes we are in the lucky situation that at the end of the task there is still some energy left. Those are the days where we usually decide to go for extra challenges, because we still feel that there is some energy which we can still use for today. And on the other hand, we have days where I said at 3 o'clock, sorry, but I'm already running out of juice, and I have to really slow down and give my body and my mind the rest in order to regenerate. This is how we say it, right? Why I'm telling you this, because it's, you know, to understand how a human organism works, it is quite simple. We just make it always so complicated, you know? But think about of yourself as being just something, a piece of equipment which needs to run on a certain level in order to provide what it's meant to be to provide. And when you cannot do this anymore, you need some maintenance. This is how simple as it is, you know. And our health is defined only by very, very, very few things. And it's exercise, which is movement, and it's introduction of fuel. So that's all the liquids and solids we introduce to our body. And maybe to a certain stage in which environment we live. So we have for sure places on this planet, they are more health beneficial. On the other hand, we have places they are not so health beneficial. So we are probably surrounded by a lot of toxins in all kinds of forms, electromagnetic toxins, chemical toxins, all kinds of stuff. And of course, people living in those environments, they are definitely more prone to develop illnesses compared to people who live still in the mountains, breathing fresh air every day, from morning to evening, having the best water in the world, and so on and so on. But this is as simple as it is. You know, we make always things too complicated. And we are victims of our own social life, because we get educated that buying convenience food is much quicker, you can save a lot of time, you can do other things, other tasks in this time, and so on. There are hundreds and thousands of examples. I don't have to go deep into that. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You know, but at the end of the day, and we know that also, 70% of all diseases on this planet are man-made. They are not. We are not. It's not our faith to suffer from diabetes, maybe except for the people who have this type of diabetes, which is genetically related. But I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about the people who will suffer from diabetes because they did everything right to suffer from diabetes. And a heart attack is well earned. You don't get a heart attack overnight. I'm not speaking about the 1 out of 1 million who maybe has a heart failure since childhood and nobody could discover it. I'm talking about the hundreds and thousands of heart attacks which happens every day on this planet because people worked really hard to achieve that. By doing the same thing wrong on a daily basis. And then the result will end up, it will come. So, health is very, very easy to understand. You know why people make it complicated? Because it's huge business. You know what's the biggest business in health is? To keep the people sick. That's the big business when it comes to health. To invent all these nice medications. You know, to just control the illness of the people. Don't die, but don't become healthy. That's what happens. That's exactly what happens. You know? And the most beneficial invention was side effect. Because if you introduce a medication with a side effect, you have to introduce a medication against the side effect, which then creates another side effect, which you have to introduce a medicine for this side effect. And it's common that we have millions and millions of patients, they are eating 10, 15, 20 pills a day. This is how crazy this whole healthcare thing became already over the decades. It's nuts, it's just unbelievable. And because they slowly introduced it and sneak in a little bit here, sneak in a little bit there, humans, they take it with pride and they don't even ask questions anymore. This is where we at with our society. Right? So, I didn't show you a slide yet. I guess she's like, come on. Oh, we are good. We are good in time. What? Show it now. No, I don't want. No. Does it make sense to you?
Yeah, of course.
So, and now, the thing is, before we look at the slide, the thing is, why don't we do what we already know? Because the things to correct everything, I'm not talking about us, and I'm talking because we do everything right here, I'm talking about the people outside. Why do people don't do this if they know already, or if they already confirm what I'm saying? Yes, this guy is right. Drink healthy stuff, eat healthy stuff, avoid any kind of bad stuff, smoking, drinking too much alcohol, and so on and so on and so on. Yeah. Well, yeah, this is the mystery of health, frankly speaking. So why don't we do that? There's only one reason why we still do the bad stuff. Because it's convenient. It's just convenient. This is the reason why we die nowadays from horrible diseases, because we created a society of convenience. We can get everything right away. This is the only reason. And it would be so easy to correct this, but in the same way, it's so difficult to do that. Because what does it take to change this? There's one word I learned over the years, which I'm faithfully practicing, and this is called self-discipline. It's nothing else. If you have self-discipline, and if you are capable of maintaining self-discipline, you can achieve everything in your life, also good health. You can become successful in business. You can become successful in a relationship, and you can also become successful in health. This is the only word which counts. Yeah, that would be a practical question. Who has a bike at home? Let's ask this question first. Who has a bike at home? Hey, who has it? Who used the bike the last month? Right. Already half of the people who own. Yeah, those are the things, Whatever we would have to do to correct things, we would have to sit down, we would have to make maybe a list, what we think we are doing wrong right now, what we would be willing to change. Change comes over time. There is nothing worse than trying to change everything right away. You will always fail. Because the problem is when human beings are in a convenient situation, it tries a lot of efforts to get out of this. And you can't achieve everything at once. You know, and in order to reward yourself, you have to start with little things. And then once you start little things and you feel the reward, for example, by feeling better, or by just having more energy, or by being nicer to yourself, or being nicer to your partner in your relationship, and so on. That's the reward you need in order to move to the next level and to the next thing, right? But the change has to come out of you, you know. And no coach, no Instagram super coach, when we have millions of them, you know, will make a difference to your life if you are not committed to the change. Because the best advice is always the one you take to heart and you turn it into action. That's the only thing that works. You know, sometimes things don't work, but you can only figure that out if you try them. And never say, that doesn't work for me. That doesn't work for me means I don't need change. I mean, I live perfectly in my life, in my world of convenience. You know, I'm just proudly waiting for my heart attack. That sounds so funny, but it's so true, huh? No? So, for me, of course, I should stand here and give you a sales pitch on PEMF devices, which, by the way, I never did in my life. Because you cannot sell a piece of equipment which costs $6,000 or $7,000 to somebody who doesn't know what this thing does. And the worst part of our systems is even when you turn them on, you don't even feel something. So, this is a rip-off from the first moment I open my mouth. Right? Yet, we never get back any system which we sold. Because it is important for you to know in advance and to understand what happens to you when you lie on such a mat and you turn on the system. With knowing that, you take it with a different perspective and you know exactly what's going to happen to you. Which brings me to my first slide. which has nothing to do with PEMF. So, what I figured out over the last 3 decades, I'm involved in this business. You have to understand, Swiss Bionic was the company who brought PEMF to North America. In the year 2005, we started introducing our systems to the North American market, starting in Canada. We started on the East Coast in Toronto. I did my first lectures in Toronto, Hamilton, Kitchener, all these areas. Hundreds of people attending, hundreds of people. You know, we sold so many units. So actually, the birth of PEMF in North America started out of Canada, from the East Coast. And in a short period of time, we created so many users, so many testimonials, that the word spread it. 1 year later, we went to the US, and obviously also to the west coast of Canada, Calgary, BC, and since then, there are so many PEMF devices on the market, ridiculously many. And if you look at these companies, the way they market their units, the claims they make, it's just even more ridiculous. Because I would say, after knowing this market really well, and after knowing also all kinds of competitors which are on the market, that 98% of all these devices are pieces of crap, I will say it like that. Their marketing is so bad, they mislead the people. You know, they even, did you get my newsletter 2 months ago? I did a special wording about one system which I exposed. I think it was Healthy Wave.
Yeah.
Did you ever hear about that company?
Yeah.
This is the most ridiculous thing I ever saw in life, because this is the biggest rip-off ever. You know, I even found this unit on Alibaba for $250, the same unit. What is the price here in do you know? Do you know this? Who knows this? I think in the US they sell it for $3,500 or $4,000. You know, I found a link, you can buy this in China for $250. It's exactly the same unit. You know, they make all kinds of claims with far infrared, with gemstones, and with all that kind of stuff. You know, I was even writing an email to them because I asked them, can you please provide me with the properties you expose through your coils, you say, because they make all kinds of claims. We have the best signal, 5 times more effective than what Swiss Bionic does with the triple sawtooth and stuff like that.
No.
You know, but always without really telling what they are doing. You will not get an information from them what kind of signal they really expose. And I asked them, and the answer I received is, we cannot tell you this because it's corporate secret. So that was exactly the answer what I needed, you know, and we will definitely go after all these companies now, because this is just ridiculous. And I made one test with one of these units. Do you know what they do? This is they hurt people on purpose. You know, their units, they have a control unit and they have an applicator. You know what they do? They don't even have a frequency generator in these control units. So they run the electricity which comes from the wall directly through to the applicator. You are exposed to dirty electricity, 60 hertz, 50 hertz, depending on where you are, Europe or North America, without filtering anything out of it. And they tell you, yeah, but we have 6 hertz. Well, you can easily gain 6 hertz out of a 50 hertz wall. You just need to interrupt the signal 12 times per minute. Then you have 5 hertz or 6 hertz, because you can just interrupt it. But that's what they are doing. They don't use frequency generators. They just interrupt the frequency which is coming out of the wall and going in the applicator. You are exposed to dirty electricity. So that's the speaking of what you said, the lady in the first row, I don't use mobile phones. This is the same effect with comparing to a mobile phone, but with a surface which is more or less 50 times bigger. This is what those companies do. And you know why they are still doing this? Because nobody goes after them. This is the only reason why these companies are still on the market. None of these companies has a quality management system. None of these units has a risk management file. So you are on risk if you decide yourself to buy one of these units. And you get ripped off big time. If you want to buy a unit, let me know. I give you a link for the original manufacturer in China. You save 90% of the money. But you are exposed to dirty electricity. And 95% of these companies do exactly the same. There are only a few manufacturers, mostly coming out of Europe. They at least have a frequency generator built in. They have more or less a different concept, how they approach it, but at least those units are safe. And they can be used without taking a risk. And you know how it is with energy medicine. You don't feel the outcome of the thread right away. It's the same with a mobile phone. You know, so lying on such a system on a daily basis for a certain amount of time will definitely do harm to you. Don't do this. If you cannot afford a real PEMF system, don't use one. Instead of saying, I buy a cheap one and use a cheap one, then please invest the money you have left for good food, for a good diet, or for going on a nice vacation and giving you a good time, because that helps you more than utilizing this stuff. This is not good. This will hurt you over time. Don't use this. And that's why the problem with PEMF is when people start doing their own research, there is so much crap on the internet about PEMF, how it's marketed, how it's introduced to the people. You know, we are actually the only company, we never hide anything, because we work with physical and verified properties. A sawtooth profile, it's a waveform, you can find it on Wikipedia. It's common sense. You know, a square wave is common sense. It's Newton's physics. So everything what we publish, what is in our system, is common sense in physics. There is no GMO signal which is 10 times more better because we use all these hidden frequencies from the ancient times. This is all BS, sorry. You know, energy medicine is applied physics, period. You know? So if you want to apply physics, then you can also share your properties. You cannot only do this if you don't want to share what you really do. And in this field, it's hiding your deficiencies. And you know, to manufacture a PEMF device with a really, really precise frequency generator, it costs money. When you open our system, you're going to find a quite sophisticated PCB structure inside, with a processor, with everything. You know, if you open one of these gadgets, there's nothing inside. So that makes a difference. But I don't want to blame on all these competitors. I just want to make sure that whenever you decide to obtain a PEMF system, don't make the wrong decision and buy cheap. If you cannot afford one, rather move away from it until you can afford a real, you know, established and safe PEMF system. That's very important. So most of us, you know, we obtain our information nowadays. If we want to know something, we ask Google. Google knows everything, right? You know, be careful. Be careful what you do, because Google is not intelligent. Google is just a search algorithm, searching the internet based on what your word was, your search word, and then it's just looking where is some information, and the information is even channeled, because some people, some companies, they pay a lot of money to be involved in that search result. So a search result on Google or any other search machine can be quite different depending which search machine you use, based on what's going on behind that algorithm. And at the end, everything what is on the web, it's uploaded by us. So that doesn't mean that the information provided is always right, it's always correct, it's always precise. It's just based on where the information comes from. Does it make sense? So be careful when you use Google for doing research. Veronica is also like that. When she's searching something, and she's always relying on the first 3 search results. Well, those are the ones that cost the most money to display. So the information there will be always very convincing. Because it's all about money and business. Don't forget this. You know, sometimes if there is the truth on Google, maybe it's on search result page 27 on the bottom, because maybe there is the truth and the true source of the truth. But you need to be careful while using this. And I get so many emails. What do you think about ChatGPT, the new trend, artificial intelligence, AI? Well, you know, I did this this little test, and I asked ChatGPT, what do you know about PEMF? You know ChatGPT, it's this new platform, and it's called artificial intelligence, and you can ask this platform whatever you want to know, questions. You can also ask ChatGPT to write you a speech about your best friend who just turned 50 and has a big midlife crisis, and at the end everything will be perfect because we organized a birthday party for him. And by the way, his name is Paul. And then within 50 seconds you will get a perfect speech, which is related to the prompts you put into ChatGPT. So I just ask a very simple question to this to this platform. What do you know about PEMF? And I got the following answer. PEMF stands for pulse electromagnetic field therapy. It's a non-invasive medical treatment that uses electromagnetic fields to improve the health of cells in the body. PEMF therapy works by delivering low-frequency electromagnetic waves to the body, which can help to stimulate cells and promoting healing. The therapy is believed to work by improving circulation, reducing inflammation, enhancing cellular metabolism. PEMF therapy has been used to treat a variety of health conditions, including chronic pain, arthritis, depression, sleep disorders. The therapy is often used as a complementary treatment alongside traditional medical treatments such as medication and physical therapy. PEMF therapy can be delivered through various devices, including mats, pads, and handheld devices. The therapy is generally safe, but it may not be suitable for everyone, particularly those who have implanted medical devices or who are pregnant. As with any medical treatment, it's important to talk to a healthcare professional before trying PEMF therapy. That's not too bad. There is nothing wrong with it. And the upside on this is, comparing to Google, that's an information we can digest, because it's a description of what PEMF is. Comparing to when you get Google search, you mostly end up with companies providing something which is related to PEMF, mostly devices or sometimes also treatments. This is more or less a more generic information. My opinion, there is nothing wrong. What is here? It's all okay. It's not very deep in explanation, but at least it's a quite good answer to get a basic understanding what PEMF stands for. So if you use artificial intelligence in order to make research about things which you are interested in, I think it's a better source of using it comparing to a simple search engine, because it gives you more digestible information in a narrative form. So, and there is nothing wrong with it. Sometimes when you use a search machine, you end up with one of these people who put a lot of money to be on the first page. Oftentimes, it's also wrong what they are telling you, because they want you to sell something. Here, the big advantage is when you use artificial intelligence, nobody wants to sell you something. It's more or less to find a comprehensive answer on your question. And yeah, like I said, I'm not sure what your impression is, but that's quite digestible and that makes all sense, right? So I think it's probably better to use ChatGPT for doing research, also when it comes to health-related topics, comparing to utilizing Google or Bing or all these search machines which are on the market. But again, where does this information come from? Well, it comes from information which is already on the web and which is basically transferred there from us. Right? Because artificial intelligence is not intelligent in terms of that it is an encyclopedia which knows everything. It takes the information from somewhere. And sometimes the information can also be wrong, depending on which source was chosen to take this information and present it to you. So consider this, please, also. And this is a little bit the downside of artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence is always based on an existing fundus of information, right? And this information has to come from somewhere. So consider this, but it's not too bad. Yeah? That's why the medical world, they rely still on their old-fashioned way of verifying whether things are right or not. They are using medical libraries where you can find studies, but even studies are sometimes not as reliable as they look, because it really depends on the study design, how many people were involved in this study, was it a double-blind, placebo-controlled study? So overall, does it withhold the study design of the classical medical field in order to evaluate or to verify whether a medical device or whether a medication delivers a result for this or that intent of use? But this is the way how the classical medical field relies on information, by using studies. And be careful when you rely on studies, especially in the alternative medical field, because people or companies make always advertising with studies. If you look at the studies, you cannot even find the study. I see a lot of companies, they say, a study has shown that. But they never reference the study. So if a company is making a claim like that and doesn't show you a reference where this study should be, forget it, there is no study. Because if this particular study shows that blah, 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 then, and this study exists, you would reference it, right? So if the reference is not there, the study is not there. And that means, as a result, this company is not to trust in, because they claim something which they cannot underlie with reference. Ask for references. You really have to start doing this, because we are so, how to say, our minds are so dirty, meanwhile, because we got overwhelmed with all these things which people tell us and the internet tells us, that we start losing our own feeling to evaluate things with our common sense. You know, you have to start using your common sense again. If you read a website, well, read it with intention. You know, and you will figure out within 2 minutes what's wrong or if everything is okay. You know, and when it comes to the medical field or also to the alternative medical field, and you end up on a website, make sure if they claim something that they have a reference for their claim. And if they don't have a reference for their claim, don't go for it, because something is stinky, something is wrong. You know, We have the best pulse electromagnetic field in the world because we have the highest intensity, the widest frequency spectrum. Well, you will never find this information anywhere. You know, I tried to find information on PEMF devices even not in the instruction of use, in the owner's manual, you know, was written what they're gonna do when you turn this unit on. And this is not reliable. This is not trustworthy. So, what is it, this PEMF? And now you will figure out most of the stuff which you're gonna see on these slides, I told you already. Because I told you that the PEMF signal contains of a couple very crucial parameters. 4 of the 5 we already discussed. Intensity, frequency, and resonance, and even coherence we discussed without using this word, because coherence is nothing else that if you use more than one property in conjunction, you have to make sure that all these properties align perfectly in order to create coherence.
Instead of chaos.
Exactly, instead of chaos, exactly. Because coherence is the situation when the parts of something fit together in a natural or reasonable way. When you remember your first date with the love of your life in this nice restaurant, with this candlelight, with this beautiful food, you know, if this turns out the way you planned it, then you used coherence. Because everything just fitted together in a natural or reasonable way. And then it's good, then it creates something positive. The only thing which we didn't cover yet was the so-called waveform or signal shape. Because we learned today that a pulsed electromagnetic field contains of a frequency, remember, that's the language, and it also contains of an intensity, which is the volume of the language. When we change the intensity, we don't necessarily change the frequency. We learned this, right? So what is it with this waveform? And this is quite simple. We have, I explain you waveform now. I love whiteboards. I hope you cope with me, because it's so, you can develop things still comparing to here, it's all done already. What is a waveform? I try to give you an example. So, imagine what is this negative frequency applying to me here? Who was it with the Okay, good. So those are bricks. Just imagine that those are bricks. And here you are just intending to build a house. So that's you. So, what are your possibilities to transport the bricks from here to that house and utilize them to build your house further? Well, the easiest way and the most doable way on a short term is you take one brick, you walk it over, and then you just put it somewhere already, or you store it here, and when you have enough storage, you start utilizing the bricks there. Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. It's the easiest way. So, the second option is, What else? What other options we have?
Wheelbarrow.
A wheelbarrow, exactly. So we use one of these wheelbarrows. The advantage is we can load a lot of bricks here and can transport it to the receiver to where we want to utilize it in a short period of time. More effective, right? Does it get more effective than that?
Yeah, with the truck.
Exactly.
Get a truck.
Okay, a huge truck, lots of bricks, very quick to load, good driver with a helmet, very quick, unload, utilize. So, why I'm telling you this is because when you utilize energy medicine, the idea of making energy medicine really, really efficient is to transport a lot of single information within the best and most shortest period of time from the sender to the receiver. Does it make sense? Because we want to make sure that all this information content, which we believe from what we know from research, from experience, that all this needs to be introduced to the receiver in the shortest period of time to make it effective for the user to utilize it and not being exposed the whole day. And in the same time, apply all the information which is needed to create this coherence and this resonance. That makes sense, right? So, in physics, the principle of what we did now in construction, we can also transform this principle and this concept into physics. And we don't use wheelbarrows or trucks or hands. In physics, you use waveforms. So, when you are into product development, this is something that's not for me.
Good luck. Work it over.
Okay, look. There's a Swiss flag on it, look. Isn't that funny? Okay, two guys try to figure out how to do it. It's not so easy, yeah? We should sue this company. Okay. She's like, you see? She knows exactly how to do that. And now you know how important it is to spend a lot of time when you do product development. How people gonna use that, you know?
There it is, she's got it.
She's got it?
Yep.
Yay, thank you so much. Next time we come out with a new product, I will send you one up front to test it, okay? And you too. So here we go. let's take a look how this works in physics. So we just learned, if we want to utilize energy medicine, we need to make sure that we are capable of generating a lot of health beneficial information, and we have to transport them in a very effective way from the sender to the receiver. In our case, from this applicator, for example, the whole body mat, to your body, right? Because this is where it happens. Yeah? So, in physics, the most simple way to do is the so-called sine wave. Maybe you heard that in physics. Sine wave. This is more or less how a sine wave looks like. A sine wave creates this is the frequency. So it creates a quite specific, simple information in terms of physics. Sine wave is also considered to create one information at a time. And this one information at a time, this is known in physics. One information at a time is 1 hertz. Because hertz is the value for frequency, named after Heinrich Hertz, was a German physicist. And one information per time is 1 hertz. In other words, 1 hertz is 1 cycle per second. 1 cycle per second is 1 hertz. So, for example, if you read somewhere that a PEMF device is generating a sine wave, a waveform with 15 hertz, then you can now translate it. It means nothing else that it creates a single frequency with 15 cycles per second. Exactly. That's as simple as it is. So, the advantage of a sine wave is you can create frequencies very easy. It's a very simple way. You don't even need a frequency generator, because you can just hack, for example, what is the carrier frequency of the wall current here in Canada?
110.
No, that's the volts.
Oh,
That's
60.
60 hertz.
60.
That's the frequency. So, for example, if you want to create 15 hertz out of your wall current, this is quite simple, because 60 divided by 15 is 4. Correct? So you just have to divide, to block the incoming current 4 times per second, and then you create 15 hertz. Very simple, right? So a sine wave is very simple to produce. That's the advantage. What is the disadvantage? Only 1 brick at a time. Because you can only transfer 1 information at a time. And if you want to utilize electromagnetic fields for health benefits, you probably have to look at more sophisticated solutions in order to transport more information in the same amount of time. So maybe not only 15 hertz, but maybe also 20 hertz, 25 hertz, 50 hertz, 100 hertz, whatever, right? Because then you can do this with a sine wave, but only one at a time. So that means you start with 15 hertz. When you're done with 15 hertz, you apply 30 hertz. When you're done with this, you apply 60 hertz. So it takes forever to introduce all these single frequencies to your body. And those were the technologies which were used in PEMF devices in the 70s and the 80s, because they didn't know it better. They used sine waves. The disadvantage was a session on a PEMF device was 6 to 8 hours, just to get some information inside your body and make it somehow efficient. But still, again, if you do your research, I would say that 90% of all PEMF devices which you can buy now for home use, they still use sine waves. So they tell you every minute exactly the same thing. So there is no benefit from this. But because it's very simple to gain these signals, and it's very cheap because you don't even need a frequency generator, those units are very popular because they cost less money and people buy that stuff. So, in order to make that better, you have to use a more sophisticated waveform. And there are more sophisticated waveforms in physics. Not we invented that, it's already existing in physics. And for example, one which is already more sophisticated is the so-called square wave. This is how a square wave looks like. So comparing to a sine wave, which looks like that, the square wave already has a shape, and you cannot see this now, but if you would make it bigger, or if you use an oscilloscope, you will find a lot of sine waves here, single sine wave frequencies, 15 hertz, 20 hertz, 30 hertz, 40 hertz, 50 hertz, which are combined into a more complex waveform, which then, and therefore to create such a signal, you need a frequency generator. You need highly applied engineering. This is high-end engineering in order to create such waveforms, because you really need a lot of computer technology with that, and also you need a lot of brain in order to program such waveforms. And this is where the knowledge in PEMF lies. It's exactly in the design and the programming of the particular waveforms. And for example, a square wave, what you would see here, if you would make this bigger with the oscilloscope, it contains of a lot of single sine waves, which are more or less packed onto this carrier here. And now imagine if you have a sine wave here, which applies exactly one frequency in 1 second, and you have here a square wave, which has already, let's say, 50 or 100, 200, 500 single frequencies in a backpack, carrying it while creating itself, then you cannot only apply one frequency at a time, but maybe 100 or 500 at a time, which increases the efficiency of transferring an information from A to B and forcing the receiver to get in coherence with it. Does it make sense? Mm-hmm. So, and then there is even more sophisticated waveform. so-called sawtooth. And this looks quite interesting. More or less like this. This is how a sawtooth waveform would look like on an oscilloscope, plus minus. It's schematic, so it's not really how it looks like. But a sawtooth waveform, which is, by the way, 100% physically waveform, you can Google this and you will find it. It's used a lot in sound, for example, to create harmonics. So to create additional overwaves, to make, for example, an instrument sounding better, to make a whole orchestra sounding better, to make a speaker sounding better. They use this kind of waveforms. So this is something, this is not GMO. This is really perfectly described in physics, and you can retrieve this information. A sawtooth waveform is actually the waveform which is capable of creating the most harmonics in relation to its carrier frequency. So for example, when I apply 1 Hertz, a sawtooth always creates the even and the uneven harmonics. 2 Hertz, 3 Hertz, 4 Hertz, 5 Hertz, 6 Hertz, uneven, even. And it goes up to the 6th or 7th level of this generation. So it creates a high amount of additional harmonics, and that increases again the probability when you apply a pulsed electromagnetic field to a receiver that the coherence and resonance factor will be increased by applying just more information, more and more. So you increase the probability to get a better response from the receiver. And this desired effect is only triggered by which waveform you're going to utilize. It's not about the volume, the intensity. Coming back to all these companies making all these claims, this unit only has this intensity, but we have a 10 times higher intensity. That doesn't make a difference. Intensity is not the key factor. The content of the information is the key factor. And this has nothing to do with the intensity, because the content is frequency. And the more content you apply in a short period of time, the higher the probability that the receiver resonates and reacts on that. Does it make sense? Yeah? Pardon?
I think it depends on the patient.
Yeah, well, yeah. Sometimes people need a little bit of a stronger stimulus. Yeah, but everything within still a very natural window. So usually you cannot trigger good result with PEMFs when the intensity is too high. You know, it turns out to go in the wrong direction then. Intensity is and will never be the crucial property when it comes to efficiency of a PEMF device. It's always the coherence of bringing all the properties together in the most beneficial combination. But it's never intensity. So, all these properties, now we learned about the waveforms in addition. All these 5 properties, they must be fine-tuned to produce health-promoting effects and in the same time avoid negative effects. This is very important. So, when you do research about PEMF, this is where you have to look at when it comes to the properties. And good luck, 90% of the companies you will not even find information about that. Because they do not publish this, because they don't have anything to publish. Yes, ma'am.
What is the measurement of intensity?
The measurement of intensity is Tesla. That's the unit. It was Gauss before. Maybe the people who were a little bit earlier in physics in school. Magnetic field intensity was valued in Gauss. 1 Gauss is now 100 microtesla. This is the equal value. And now it's measured in Tesla or microtesla, depending on how low or how high the value is. But for example, I can give you maybe the idea that the Earth magnetic field has a magnetic field intensity roughly between 25 and 75 to 80 microtesla. 1 microtesla is the millionth part of a Tesla. The higher would be millitesla, and then it's Tesla. But the exposure of our units is between 0.5 and about 300 microtesla. So we are roughly within and a little bit above the Earth magnetic field. The exposure of an MRI, we discussed that, that's roughly between 2 and 5 Tesla, which is about 2 to 500,000 times stronger than the Earth magnetic field, and equally 2 to 500,000 times stronger than what we expose with our PEMF applicators. So this is definitely something which needs to be used within the hands of experienced people in a short period of time, because those high intensity electromagnetic radiation, they can hurt you badly if they are not applied properly. Versus using low pulse, low frequency and low intensity electromagnetic field devices like the ones we offer for the public and also for home use. Those units are, when it comes to intensity, within a range which is considered to be 100% safe for you to use in the comfort of your home. You could literally be exposed 24 hours with a whole body signal here from our units. It will not harm you. It will simply be waste of energy, because after a certain time the body is not responding or resonating anymore with these kind of information, and just says, oh, it's enough, you can talk the whole night, but I'm not listening to you anymore. But it will never harm you. That's the good news.
So what's the maximum amount of time that person should lay on the light?
Between 8 and 24 minutes, 2 to 3 times per day, and you can, yeah.
So no more than an hour and a half?
No,
In a day? It's not-
never. If you know how it is. If you tend, as a human being, if you tend to do or to perform something consistently, it's not so much about how long you do it. It's more about how consistent you do it. You know, it's brushing your teeth. Usually, if you do it consistently 3-4 times per day, you do it for 2 minutes and it's enough. You know, and it will not make things better if you brush your teeth 1 time per week for 28 minutes. You know, maybe the amount of time is the same, but the result is totally different. And it's the same with PEMF, with everything you apply on a daily basis. It's not so much about the amount of time you spend, it's more about how consistent you are able to do it on a daily basis. No, that's much better. So, if you use PEMF technology in the comfort of your home, and my advice is, try to implement it in a way that you can do a morning session before you go out of the house for 8 minutes. And usually in the evening when you come back, you have a little bit more time. So you do a 16 or 24-minute session before you prepare yourself going to bed. This would also be the perfect timing in the evening to apply a low intensity with a longer duration, because it prepares your entire system for sleep. And while doing that, you help your body to get into that stage, which will eventually end up in giving you a better sleep during the night. Because it just prepares your entire system better for that. So that would be the idea.
So comparing sleep mode to performance mode, for example, what sleep mode I understand.
Yes?
How does performance mode kind of reflect?
Yeah, can you write down this question, because I would like to address this question in the afternoon session if you're still here.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. He's talking about the fast start programs in the system, and if you don't mind, I will give you a little bit more of an education on the fast start programs after lunch.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, we are quite no, but we're quite good. You know, I don't have to show you every slide. I just have to make sure that you get all the information. But let's cover this, if you allow me to cover this in the afternoon session, because because there's more to it, and I would really like to explain it a little bit deeper. Also, why we have this and what's behind this and how it's pre-programmed.
Can I ask something about the, so when you're saying the 8 to 24 minutes per day, a couple of times a day on the mat,
Yeah.
but I'm doing that, but I'm also doing more with the squat and the pad. So
Yes.
yeah, like I add sometimes quite a bit more time doing those applicators. So
It always depends. For example, you know, usually when you commit yourself to possess a PMF system, you do that for a reason. The reason could be you suffer from something, you have a health problem, or like we have a lot of athletes, for example, they use it for increase and improve their performance. So they are not basically ill or have a problem, but they want to use the unit to get better, get in a better performance level. So, for example, when you suffer from something, usually the approach of energy medicine is, first of all, doing something for the entire organism. This is very important, to support the entire system, to wake up, to increase, to get the self-healing capacities to work, and at the same time then to locally address where the problem is with an additional local applicator, which could be the pad or the spot, depending on where you would like to treat yourself, and with a different approach. Because now, as we know the different waveforms, I can tell you, for example, that the local applicators of our systems, they apply a square wave, whereas the whole body map gives you a sawtooth. So you get two different waveforms, and we know from science, which is perfectly explained, I can give you the reference, that, for example, a square wave is capable of triggering endorphins. So, for example, if you use a pad or a probe on a certain spot of your body, you use it with one of our systems, what you create is pain relief on this particular area. Why? Because when you apply a pad or spot from us, then your body is exposed with a square wave, and the square wave is capable of releasing endorphins, which, you know, it's a hormone reaction of your body, which has a pain relieving effect. And this is how it works when you use the local applicator versus swallowing chemicals and taking ibuprofen or whatever, you know. The big advantage of using a local applicator is you do this without any side effect. That's quite as simple as it is. So the idea why you always get, when you get a unit from us, always a whole body applicator and in addition local applicators, is because we want to make sure that we address a holistic treatment, which is done by the whole body mat, with the most frequencies that possible. That's why we give you a triple sawtooth waveform with a whole body mat. And in addition, we also supply you with a pad applicator and a spot applicator, optionally, which gives you the possibility of doing partial treatments depending on where the problem on your body is. You know, with a different waveform, with a square wave. And that's why you can always use, I always say, the whole body application is always the most important because it addresses the whole body. You know, it's the holistic treatment. But then, depending on where the problem is, you can always additionally apply a pad or a spot application, 16 to 24 minutes, always depending a little bit on how much time, not how much time you have. It's about how much time you are willing to invest. Remember what I told you first at the beginning of this whole day. It's all about self-discipline.
I just want to ask, is there any other waveform that you have researched that is more promising? Like
There's the trapezoid is still existing, but none of them is as promising as what we applied, you know. And with like I said, with there is the triangle is still a physical waveform, and the trapezoid is still a physical waveform, but with none of them is good research available, so we would have to conduct more research. The iMRS Prime contains of a research mode, which is called the iMRS Prime Trial, because we have a very sophisticated frequency generator built in the iMRS Prime, and it allows you, when you release the trial version, to get access to this frequency generator and create every frequency model which you would like to have, what physics offers you. And we did that because we would like to encourage the scientific world to utilize the iMRS Prime also to start doing research, which doesn't happen yet, but which will definitely happen in the nearest future. You know, and nobody of these scientists said they have to do a prototype anymore because we have already everything ready for them. And it's a generic frequency generator, so you can generate whatever you want. But as of now, we didn't find any more powerful and efficient. If we would, it would be built in right away, no question. And we can do this because we have the technology inside already. We could even do this with a simple firmware upgrade. You know, this is how cool the iMRS Prime is, because the iMRS Prime has such a sophisticated software architecture and also hardware architecture. It's built in with a fully running computer processor, and you figure that out whenever we correct something or we come out with something new, we give you a firmware upgrade. And we give that for free to you. So the system is growing over time with maybe the bugs we figure out, but also with the feedback we receive from the users. And we are capable of implementing this because the system allows it to be upgraded in a very simple form. And like I said, we even do it free of charge. So whenever there is something you will benefit from it, you will have it. So that's the waveforms. Then we spoke about that. That's the square wave, that's the cheap sine wave. And if we talk about research shows, we always reference the research. And this is what the companies should do. If you make a claim, for example, that sine waves are one of the least effective waveforms for electromagnetic energy, well, then at least reference where you know this information from. And there is, by fact, a study from NASA, and it's referenced here where you can find this information, that a simple sine wave is the least effective when you utilize PEMF for health benefits. So then we have, then we have the intensity. I told you already, less can be more. High intensity devices are good, but only for very, very specific application. There is a new technology which is meanwhile also acknowledged in classical medicine. It's called RTMS. I'm not sure if you heard about that. Repetitive transcranial magnetic stimulation. This is a technology. Those are handheld devices, and these devices, they are used in clinics, in hospitals and clinics. For example, against depression. Works pretty well, you know, and it was approved, I think it's not more than 3, 4, 5 years ago. So it's a quite new technology, and it is also FDA approved, it is Health Canada approved, and the first approval was given for depression. But now they figured out that it also helps, for example, brain diseases like Parkinson or Alzheimer. Also great results with just postponing the progress of the disease. And for example, in Parkinson patients, utilizing transcranial magnetic stimulation can help to lower the tremor. All these kind of things, you know. And on the contrary, and this is so interesting about energy medicine, because I just told you that RTMS helps against the tremor in Parkinson patients. And you have to know, RTMS, we talk about electromagnetic field intensities, again, 3 to 5 Tesla. So that's the same like an MRI. So those units, they have to be, they can only be used in a controlled environment with very skilled people who doing this, because they can harm, you know. And then I can now reference 3 studies I know personally from a guy named Sandick. You know, you can find them on the medical libraries. And he did studies with Parkinson patients with PEMF devices, with the best results for tremor and overall health benefits, and those units are in the picotesla range. So that when we speak about intensity, they're in a range. They're about 100 times lower than what we apply. Isn't that, this is so interesting about energy medicine, that sometimes you have the greatest results while in the same time applying very, very little intensity. So here is more, like what I said, coherence. That's the magic word, it's coherence. You know, to find this perfect combination of these 4 properties in order to create that specific effect for this particular disease or problem or symptom or whatsoever, you know. But it's never ever intensity alone, never. It's the combination of those properties, you know, the coherence.
What is that?
That's a Tesla coil. This is, by the way, what you see here. This is what's built in our whole body mats. We are the only company utilizing non-insulated solid copper coils. Why do we do this? Because they, by far, the best conductor when you run current through it to create this magnetic field around it in the most pure form, because it's uninsulated and it has a very thick diameter, these coils. And there is only Swiss Bionic using these kind of coils. All other companies use cheap insulated mesh wire. And insulated mesh wire we know that from the speakers. They are not solid. When you uninsulate them, then you see there is a lot of tiny wires twisted together. And the problem with these wires is, and with the insulation is, they are not capable of creating something which is very important in order to transfer the signal efficiently, and this is called induction. The induction property of a solid copper coil like this is about 100 times higher comparing to what you have with all the other devices. So again, you need very, very little intensity to create high induction and high efficiency. And we decided to utilize this because we know that it will be always safe for the person to use our systems. Because we don't need a lot of current in order to create high induction. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And those coils are very expensive. And you can open them, 6 solid copper coils inside, in each of our applicator. And a mesh wire coil costs a fraction of what we are using inside. We talk about factor 100. And we use really solid copper coils. And that's why, and that's what it's also called a Tesla coil. And when it comes to frequency, it's very important that we apply frequencies which the body is capable to resonate with. And remember that example I told you maybe 2 hours ago or 1.5 hours ago, when I said when we suffer from pain and we utilize a smartphone, even if the smartphone is emitting an electromagnetic field, it does not create any pain relieving effect. Why? Because of this. Because the frequency exposed by a smartphone is not within that biological window that we need to achieve in order to create a resonating effect from the body. And speaking in numbers, I can tell you that a smartphone, the average carrier frequency of a smartphone is between 800 and 1900 megahertz. 1 megahertz is a lot. 1 megahertz is 1 million hertz. It means 1 million cycles per second. 800 to 1900 megahertz means between 800 and 1900 million cycles per second. This is the carrier frequency of a mobile phone. Wow. The biological window is between 0.5 and 30 hertz. So that's a half until 30 cycles per second. And not 800 to 1900 million cycles per second. So sorry, but your iPhone does not qualify as a PEMF device. Because there is no coherence.
What is the frequency of the Earth?
In the smartphone?
No,
the Earth. The Earth, I didn't even mention that. The Earth frequency, meanwhile, there was a German mathematician and he calculated it. Klaus Bionzig was his name. The carrier frequency of the Earth is between, now my jet lag hits me. I think it's 15.75 to 15.79 hertz. Which is perfectly within the biological window. Think of your brain waves. Most of your brain waves vibrate between 0.1 and 35 hertz, which is perfectly within the biological window. Remember the so-called Schumann resonance. Maybe you heard about that. This is the carrier frequency of the ionosphere. This is literally the basic carrier frequency of the entire space we live. Ionosphere is the space from the surface of the Earth until the exit of the stratosphere. This is the area, the space where the astronauts are going. And where you cannot survive anymore, because in the stratosphere you are lacking gravity and you are lacking oxygen. And you're more or less also lacking light. And that's why you take away the most crucial properties to keep yourself alive. You know how hard it is when you have no oxygen for 3 minutes. It's a hard life, right? So the stratosphere is nothing, but the Schumann resonance, by the way, the Schumann resonance is stable, 7.83 Hertz. Very stable. And sometimes it fluctuates. By the way, do you know people who get headaches when the weather is changing? Do you want to know why this happens? You always want to know why this happens, right? I can tell you, this is caused by the so-called spherics. S-F-E-R-I-C-S. The spherics is nothing else. Those are weather conditions. They have a direct impact on the Schumann resonance, on the carrier frequency of the ionosphere. Sometimes when there are weather phenomena and they create some kind of chaos in the ionosphere, they have an impact on the Schumann resonance. So the Schumann resonance starts fluctuating. It's getting out of sync. And there are people, they are sensitive on that. And whenever they sense this, they create migraines. But it's called by the spherics. And it's a quite reasonable and explainable phenomenon. This is the reason. It's just, we have some disturbing frequencies within our biological window, and there are people, they are really sensitive on that. And those are the people, they are mostly, they feel the impact of these vibrations, fluctuations of the spherics caused by weather phenomena. So, yeah, this is more or less the frequency range we are coherent with, we are resonating with. So, if we want to have a positive effect, we should apply frequencies within that window. Everything below or above, usually it doesn't hurt us, we just don't react on that. So, it just doesn't bother us. Exactly, and maybe that's a good finish point.
Yeah.
Because this is such a nice video which will explain you resonance. Can you read this? You can read this? Yeah. So there was a laboratory experiment which was done in Japan, in the Ikaguchi laboratory, quite a while ago, 11 years ago. And do you know what a metronome is?
Yes.
Yeah, musicians use it for keeping the rhythm when they play something. And what you're going to see here, you see many metronomes. They are on a surface, and they get randomly turned on by a person, just with a finger. Randomly, just one after the other. And the interesting phenomenon, what you can observe during that about 2-minute video is, what do you think is going to happen over time?
They're going to be all the same.
They're
going to be all the same.
They're going to be all, they synchronize to each other, just by miracle. And while watching this, I will explain to you before we have our deserved lunch break, why this is going to happen. But look first. This was the first one, right? So this is the PEMF system. And those are your body cells. And they are just chaotically vibrating now on their own frequency. And this is the PEMF system. And you will see over time, each of your body cell will go in resonance with the metronome here, which is the sender. So in other words, when you utilize energy medicine and you have a sender who is capable of introducing an information which can be understood by the receiver, that the receiver will take this information and resonate with it.
Does it slow down or does it speed up?
No, not at all. It's the same.
No, when they're on.
Yeah.
How much do you do that?
It will last 4 to 6 hours, interestingly.
Do we know that that speeds up too much or does it slow down?
No. It usually depends on. I think it's slowing down. It must slow down because it cannot speed up.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, because that would need an additional force which is not given by physics. Yeah, exactly. So you see, so it takes maybe 1-2 minutes, and then almost every cell is already vibrating with the primary introduced frequency. Huh? This is amazing, huh? And this is what happens when you get up close.
But I find it interesting if we are going to the same side.
Yes, and now, but you know how it is in life, there is always this one guy. You can see him? Huh? Just tries to resist, you know? But because it's the principle of resonance, it's just a question of time. Yeah, exactly. This is the one asking for studies. And now what's interesting, once everything is aligned, it will never go out of sync anymore. It will stay like this.
Is it because that first one was started?
Exactly. It's only because of that. Yeah? Because one has to give the pace. And one has to give the message what the others have to do. You know? And what you see now here is exactly what happens. What do you think happens when I stop the one I started first?
Chaos.
No. No. They will just keep going in sync with the same frequency. So that means, and this is the good news, when you use a PEMF device for 8 minutes and you stop the application after 8 minutes and then you stand up and go to work, your cells will keep on treating you, because the resonance effect which you create with a PEMF device in about 8 minutes will last, and now listen, this is really powerful, 4 to 6 hours. So you treat yourself not 8 minutes, you treat yourself for 4 to 6 hours. And that's why we always say, when you do a morning session, the evening session, you at least cover already 12 hours of your 24-hour day utilizing this effect.
And going more than 8 minutes?
It will eventually maybe increase the time after you finish, but not necessarily. That depends a little bit on the individual situation. On the capability of your organism, which is still the mystery I cannot answer, which is still the you have to try it thing. But what's also interesting, when you utilize PEMF technology over a while, then you somehow create a sensitivity whether you need more or less, whether you need higher intensity or lower intensity, because your body is somehow telling you what it needs and what it doesn't need. And because you cannot harm, you can always try. So you cannot overdose. It's impossible. You know, at least our systems, they are 100% safe. We never ever had a reportable incident in 30 years with one of our units. And believe me, some people, they forget to turn it off. Or I know people, men, especially men, they treat themselves 24 hours because they want to achieve something. I don't know what, but you know, I'm already on 400. Yes, which means nothing, you know. So, energy medicine is not about intensity. It's about being smart in how to apply it to yourself. Really. And coming back to remember what you asked me about the time, how much time. If you want to do good with energy medicine, it's always about consistency and never about intensity. You know, it's like in a relationship. You know, if you do consistently things wrong over a certain period of time, it's not good. You know, but you know, if you do consistently things right, saying every day, I love you, and not only you don't have to turn on the volume. Just say it in between, you know. Be consistent, you know, and it will always be, everything will be always good, you know. So this was my way of introducing PEMF technology to you. You probably figured out that maybe you expected something else, that I go a little bit more into how is it chemically, but I think for me it's important that you understand what you can do with energy medicine, that you understand what kind of powerful technology you have in hands, you know, creating incredible effects with very less energy and with a very high safety level. This is also always important to me to share this with you, that you cannot harm you. You know, and I know that sounds so super fantastic that, you know, but it is what it is. You know, you cannot harm, and less is more. Take this home. Whatever you do, it's about consistency and not about intensity. And I think you deserve a break now, you deserve your food now, and we will get back here and start the afternoon session at around 2 o'clock.